Welcome in. The show is called 4th and 1 Michigan Recruiting. The dress code is obvious. You have to wear a gingham shirt. Brad Galli, Tom VanHaaren.
We match again.
I opened the door to let him into our building here at WXYZ, and we don't even say anything. I mean, we really don't try to plan this.
No, we don't email ahead of time. We don't call ahead of time. It just happens. We have good fashion sense. That's a good thing.
Sure,
right?
it is. So each week we talk on this show about 4 high school recruiting topics that have to do with Michigan, who's going to be next on the field in Ann Arbor. And then the last topic is something tied to the current team and some of the young players. Someone we haven't talked about on this show yet, Jabrill Peppers, the number 2 overall prospect in the nation, committed to Michigan, going to Michigan. He was in Ohio recently, Tom. For people out there that don't know, for fans that do know, what makes him so special?
Everything.
Yeah.
He's the number 2 rated prospect for a reason. And the thing that I start out with usually for Michigan fans is that there's no one on the roster like Jabrill Peppers. He has size, he has speed, he's a track guy. He's going to play cornerback. He plays running back right now also for his high school team. Some people think he could be a running back in college, but Michigan has him set to be a corner. He's going to provide a lot for the defense that Greg Madison really wants, and that some of the cornerbacks, no offense to them, that they just can't provide right now. He's going to be able to, because of his size and his speed, he'll be able to help in run support. He'll be able to be a cover guy. He's going to be able to make this defense a lot more versatile in what he brings.
Da'Shawn, someone we've talked about on this show virtually every week. You guys have him slotted as the number 4 player. What can Peppers do for his recruitment to bring him into Michigan?
Well, those are 2 guys that they have been in contact. And as I said before, Jabrill Peppers has been trying to recruit Da'Shawn. He's been open about trying to bring him to Michigan because a guy like Jabrill Peppers wants other top prospects in Ann Arbor with him. So that voice in Da'Shawn's ear, a guy that he can relate to, a guy that has gone through the process, and they have similar personalities in that they don't like to talk to the media a lot. They kind of keep to themselves. I think that's important as well. They're similar people. They're big prospects, and when you get those kind of people together, building a comfort level, if that's his future teammate, it just makes it that easier to pick that school.
Tom's always got the insight and what's next, what's to come here. So last week we talked about the current Michigan team. You talked about all the changes, and then you said, hey, here we are the next day later, and everyone's talking about it. So from a recruiting standpoint, 2015 running back commit Damien has been lighting things up. You said we got to talk about what he's been able to do already in his high school season.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous. Through 6 games, he has 1,339 yards, 23 touchdowns on 118 carries. He's averaging 11.3 yards per carry. That's ridiculous.
I mean, in most high school seasons, okay, your first few games are against non-conference opponents.
Sure.
But we're in a conference season now.
Oh yeah, and every game, it just seems like his coach is texting me with, "Hey, another crazy game for Damien." He's almost averaging 4 touchdowns per game. So yeah, this is a big get for Michigan. We have him as at number 20 overall in the ESPN 300 class for the 2015 kids. I actually spoke with former Michigan running back Chris Howard about Damien. Chris watched his film, and he said, this guy's the truth. He's the real deal. He thinks that Damien is actually better than the running backs that Michigan currently has right now.
Wow. Pretty surprising when you look at even the stacked running backs that Michigan has had in the past, from Anthony Thomas on to Anthony Carter. He could fit in from what he's already done in high school, and he's still got another senior year left ahead of him.
Well, and that's the good thing about this kid is that he brings a lot to the table. He'll be able to help out with the pro-style offense. He's a bigger guy. He's around 5'11", 190 pounds, but he still has a ton of speed. He says he runs a 4.4, and if you watch his film, he's got breakaway speed. So he's going to bring a lot to the offense. He'll fit in right away.
Another player in that 2015 class, not committed. But as we move on to third down, Tyriq Thompson, an interesting story and some interesting news that you have on him and how it could fit into what could be next for him.
Yeah, he's another ESPN Junior 300 guy. He's one of the top. We have him as a linebacker. I think he's going to be in college. I think he'll be a weak side linebacker. He recently took a visit to Northwestern. Before he took that trip, Michigan State offered. Now, the weird thing about that, or the interesting part about that, is that his father, Clarence Thompson, actually played for Michigan. So there's a little bit of intrigue here. Michigan hasn't offered yet. I know they're interested. They're watching him right now. It looks like a lot of Big Ten schools are going to come after him. So it'll be interesting to watch how his recruitment plays out. If Michigan does offer, with so few spots already left in that class, he might need to jump on board pretty quick.
Something I know you get a lot of tweets about, and since we started the show, I'm getting questions about too with that 2015 class. You just said it. It is so slim with what's left to offer, with left to fill the spots with. So as our fourth down, we'll leave time to talk about this. What do you see as the biggest needs that Michigan needs to fill in that class?
That's a great question. I think they've already filled some of the needs that they have. Overall, going into the 2015 class, I felt like they needed to grab a big-time wide receiver, a guy that was a playmaker. They did that. They grabbed George Campbell out of Florida. We have him at number 3 overall in the class. Ridiculous get for them. Florida's still after him. Alabama's after him. That was a huge get, and he's teammates with 2014 commit Mason Cole, so that there was a little bit of a connection there. But to land him this early, that was great. They're going to need to land another quarterback. I think quarterback depth, once Devin Gardner leaves, you're going to have Shane Morris, Wilton Spate. I think you need to grab another top quarterback in this class just to fill out depth, just to make sure you keep those guys coming in. The interesting part about that, they've only offered one quarterback so far in Josh Rosen out of California. So the big question with that position is who's next to get an offer and who jumps on board. There's going to be some prospects that they'll evaluate, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And then as far as the other positions, I feel like they've done a good job evaluating the right prospects, landing some of the right prospects to where they're in a position already. We're not even done with the 2014 class, but they're already in a position for the 2015 class where they can be a little picky and kind of choose who they want to go after. Some of the big positions left, I think, offensive line. Sterling Jenkins is a big tackle out of Pennsylvania. He's going to be a guy they're going to go after. I think linebacker. This is a good class for linebackers. Justin Hilliard out of Ohio. He's a big name for them. Those are probably two big areas where they still need to address.
When you look at that 2014 class, just kind of feed off of this, no commitments or anything since August. Is that surprising, or what does that say?
It's not surprising. Because of how the class is put together right now, there's really only maybe 2 to 3 spots left. And you look at the guys that are left, they're top prospects. So those guys they're being targeted by a lot of top schools. Those kind of guys are always going to take their time. Malik McDowell, he's in the ESPN 300. Deshaun Hand, we mentioned, he's number 4 overall. John Juju Smith out of California, he's another ESPN 300 guy. Yeah. All these guys want to take visits. They want to take official visits. They want to wait the process out and see what happens. I don't think any of those guys outside of Smith will actually wait until signing day. Deshaun Hand is going to decide on November 14th, so we know he won't. But with those guys, that's just always the case. It's going to take longer to get them in.
Okay, makes sense. Tom knows his stuff. For our extra point, last week you had a little bit of insight in knowing that some shuffling was going to happen on the offensive line. We saw that happen. We saw Devin Funchess move from tight end to play a little bit more wide receiver. He had the game of his career.
Yeah.
This week in Penn State, keeping a recruiting angle going here, it's a road game, but you say it's an important one for Michigan on a recruiting standpoint.
Sure. Well, if you look at it's only natural if you look at these two teams, both run a pro-style offense. They're going to be going after similar prospects within the Midwest. This is going to be a big recruiting weekend for Penn State. And since there is overlap, it turns into a big recruiting weekend for Michigan inadvertently as well. Some of the guys that are going to be on campus, I mentioned Sterling Jenkins, the offensive lineman from Pennsylvania. He has Michigan in his top group, and he'll be at Penn State this weekend. A tight end. Both teams use the tight end now. We just mentioned Devin Funchess. C.J. Conrad out of Ohio, he's going to be there as well. Michigan just invited him up for a game. He'll be in Ann Arbor in a few weeks. So there's going to be a lot of prospects that overlap here that both teams are going to be fighting for. If Michigan can put on a good show, those kids are going to be watching Michigan as well.
Impressive stuff. Always fun to look ahead to see. There's much more than just a college football game being played on a Saturday.
Yep.
Tom VanHaaren, you can find his stuff on ESPN Insider. Find him on Twitter at TomVH. You can find his insight on high school football recruiting, Big Ten recruiting, and sweets. He likes desserts.
And fashion, too.
Oh, yeah, that too, if that's what you want to call it. We'll be here every week. Thanks for watching.